Good evening and welcome to the April 1st, 2013 Jurupa Unified School District Board meeting. We will start with roll call, please. Thank you. And Mrs. Burns, would you lead us in the flag salute, please? We will start with student board members. Mr. Duchamp.
Well, welcome back from break. Hope you had a good time and a little rest and did all your homework. And Roger, you're first.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Tonight, I don't have much to report because we just had a meeting right before break. But I will report that in sports, we're doing great. We're, okay, not so great, but we're doing fine. Golf is doing great in season. They're undefeated, I believe. And boys tennis is 11-2 overall, placing 6th in CIF so far. Boys swim is 2-0 in league, and girls swim is 1-1. Track is also 1-1 in league, and our softball and baseball aren't doing so good. And unfortunately, they lost to Patriot last week. But next Thursday, our boys swim, girls swim, and track are taking on Patriot. Our swimmers are at home at Jurupa Valley at 3:15, and our track team is at Patriot at 3:15. So if either of you can come to either of them, the cross-rival games are always great. Everyone always tries to play their best, and we seek to redeem our baseball and softball brothers and sisters. This week is also Spirit Week at Jurupa Valley High School. Today was Jag Spirit Day. There were lots of people just wearing all their Jag Spirit and sharing their Jaguar pride. Tomorrow is T-Ball Tuesday, and we encourage everyone to wear baseball tees, but of course to remain in dress code and not wear the actual baseball jerseys. And Wednesday is Gender Bender, which is guys dress up as girls and then girls dress up as guys. And that's always hilarious to watch. I remember one year I saw one of the guys actually dressed up as a cheerleader, actually put on like the whole outfit, and that was just hilarious. And then some girls go all out. They like blend in, and it's just hilarious to see. And then Thursday was our Grease Lightning Day, and that's everyone dressed up as a greaser from the 50s. And then Friday is the actual day of our pep rally to recognize sports and our STAR testing, which is going on next week and on. And this year's goal is for 725. So our idea is drive for 725. And also that day is, for Spirit Day, is Mr. versus Mrs. Boys wear blue and then girls wear pink, and our pep rally is we're splitting it up, boys versus girls, and see who's really the better gender. And our prom is quickly approaching, April 26th, and it's going to be at the Fox Theater in Redlands. Tickets are going. They're last Friday right before break. The line was just enormous. I swear, like there's about 40 people already in line, like trying to buy tickets, and everybody's just going crazy asking their little sweetheart or just a friend or anybody. And our WASC meeting will also take place the week before spring break, and we anticipate great results. And also, in closing, I just want to say congrats to Mr. West for being named Best of the Best at Jurupa Valley High School. Thank you.
And thank you, Roger. And just a little advice, that who's the better gender, that's an argument you can only win if you lose. Shaylee, would you like to tell us about Patriot?
Of course. We're all enjoyed our spring break here at Patriot, and we're on the countdown to summer with only 38 school days left until the end of the school year. So that's definitely a countdown that we're all keeping. At Patriot, we're also preparing for STAR testing that's quickly approaching with our undercover operation theme. We've had different videos on the video announcements advertising STAR testing and making sure that we can all reach our API goal. This Wednesday, we will be dedicating a memorial to Miss Iriarte, who was a Spanish teacher at Patriot who passed away a couple years ago, and so we'll be honoring her and the great teaching that she did for all of our Spanish students at Patriot. This Friday is our prom fashion show. Juniors and seniors are welcome to participate in this, modeling the latest fashions for prom this year, and it's also help advertise our tickets that went on sale today. Our theme is Endless Dreams, and our prom is being held at the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts, and it's sure to be a great event. Also in conjunction with prom, our seniors are putting on an event called Every 15 Minutes, and what this event is, educates our students about the harms of drinking and driving, and the reason it's called Every 15 Minutes is because every 15 minutes someone is seriously injured or killed in a drunk driving related accident. So we'd hate for anything like that to happen to any of our students, so it's better to be prepared and educated on that. This Saturday, CSF and NHS is holding a special ed ball to have a place for our special needs students to come and have a prom-like experience. We've never done anything like this at Patriot before, but it's sure to be a great event that will remain a tradition at Patriot. Also on April 12th, we're having a senior movie night to help our seniors raise money for the end of their year activities. And that's all that's going on for Patriot. Thanks.
When is the every 15 minutes?
It's the day before prom, so April 25th.
I would encourage, actually anybody in the audience, but any board members, if you have not seen that, it is very sobering. It will not leave you untouched. So.
And this year, actually, we do a full every 15 minutes every other year. So this year we'll just be showing a video and doing an assembly. The actual full accident, everything will be next year.
Thank you for the information on the two high schools, and I hope we didn't scare Catherine off last week and that she's not over at Patriot waiting for us. All right, next we will go on and recognize tonight the best of the best for February and March, our employee recognition program. Mrs. Rausch.
Thank you. President Schmidt, trustees, and Mr. Duchan. Great pleasure tonight to present to you our best of the best for February and March, and also to list our honorable mentions also. And I know our first recipient is here, and Jennifer Todd, if you'll come up and join me. Jennifer's our instructional materials technician at our textbook processing center. Jennifer was nominated by staff throughout the district for always going above and beyond to ensure that our students and teachers have the necessary curriculum materials for learning. Jennifer's dedication to account for the millions, literally millions of individual pieces of curriculum materials is truly amazing. No is not in Jennifer's vocabulary. No matter what is asked of her, she always finds time or a way to get things done, and with that smile that's always on her face. Thank you, Jennifer, for being a hardworking and dedicated staff member who goes above and beyond in all you do for us. Congratulations on being recognized as one of our best. Last time I looked, I don't think Angel is here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Angel, but she's our principal secretary at Camino Real. Angel's been serving the Jurupa Unified School District for the past 30 years. On a daily basis, she skillfully deals with a wide variety of issues on campus with a smile. With her many years of experience at school sites, she's able to assess situations and make excellent decisions during stressful situations. Angel always places the needs of our students as a top priority. She is appreciated by staff, parents, and students, and we'd like to thank Angel for her dedication and willingness to go the extra mile for our Camino kids. Thank you. Next, I think Pam Ogden is here. Pam is our ELA and social science teacher at Mission Middle School. Pam is a dedicated teacher who truly cares about each of her students. She designs creative lesson plans which makes learning fun and interesting for students, which inspires them to reach their highest potential. Besides all of the work she does in the classroom, Pam also helps out with the Washington, D.C. and French clubs and provides tutoring for students. We'd like to thank Pam for being such a hard-working and dedicated member of our family. Thanks, Pam. Congratulations. And I know our next recipient is here, Arlene Stevens, Program Specialist for Special Education. Each day, Arlene supports administrators, teachers, and classified staff with the ever-changing and challenging special education issues. Her willingness to be there for staff during difficult IEPs, to brainstorm ideas to assist a special needs child, or simply to quickly return emails and telephone calls is appreciated by all. Arlene's positive outlook and wealth of special education knowledge makes her truly one of Jurupa's best. Congratulations, Arlene, on your recognition tonight. I know our next one is here too. We almost have 100% here. Michelle Markham, principal at Nueva Vista. No, you have to stand up here for a while. In the short amount of time that Michelle has been at Nueva Vista High School, she has already made a positive impact. Staff described her as a compassionate, fair leader, and she is well respected by students, staff, and the community. Michelle has encouraged staff to develop new strategies and approaches to help students succeed. Her positive outlook and genuine care for the students and community really shines through. Michelle has been a welcome addition to Nueva Vista High School, and we are pleased to recognize her tonight as one of our best. Thank you. Last but not least, seems like he's been up here quite a bit before. Our final recipient is Mike West, principal at Jurupa Valley. Mike has only been at Jurupa Valley High School for a short time and has already made positive changes on campus. His visible presence on campus, willing to assist others, positive attitude, and leadership skills is greatly appreciated by the entire Jaguar community. Mike is a positive role model for both staff and students, and his genuine care for the students' success is evident as he carries out his daily responsibilities. Thanks, Mike, as always, for all you do, and congratulations on being recognized tonight. And last, just really quick, I want to go through our honorable mentions, and so if you're here tonight, please stand at your seat as I call your name. Michael Dumeyer, Computer Support Assistant, Technology Department. Damon Drake, Campus Supervisor, Jurupa Middle. Kathy Fanning, Payroll Specialist, Ed Center. Margaret Alonzo, PE Teacher, Jurupa Middle School. Debbie Betts, 3rd grade teacher, Pacific Avenue. Debbie England, RSP Teacher, Indian Hills. David Jacobs, Elementary Instrumental Teacher, Ed Center. Rosa Mendoza, Counselor, Miraloma Middle School. Blanca Preciado Diaz, ELA, ELD Teacher, Mission Middle. Christy Wiley, Kindergarten Teacher, West Riverside. And last but not least, Josh Lewis, Principal, Jurupa Middle School. Thanks and congratulations.
Thank you, and congratulations to each of you. You are some of the best of the best. Next, we will move to public verbal comments, and I don't see any pink slips up here. Did we have any public verbal comments? Seeing none, we will continue on to administrative reports and written communications. First will be report on the transition to Common Core state standards. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. As you know, we talked about this last week, and we're talking about it this week, and we'll talk about it at every meeting. Tonight's topic, I want to talk about collaboration and communication with teachers and how the transition to Common Core is being bolstered by that very important part of it. we knew that this was going to be a big change over several years, and that we knew for it to be effective and for it to be as good for our kids as we wanted it to be, we would need the guidance and the support and the collaboration of our teachers, and we'd need them to be on board and excited about it. So we've taken quite a few steps to make that happen. And as you have heard in past years, the teachers have at times asked for some more of that. And so we're trying to provide that. And so I have a list tonight, and I'm just going to talk briefly about many of the groups of teachers that are working with us and in what capacity they do that in order to make this transition. Starting with about a year and a half ago, we created, or actually resurrected, a committee that we had a long time ago and I was a part of in the 90s, called the Assessment Review Committee, or ARC. And that is several groups of 6 to 10 teachers at each grade level, at the K-6 level, and 6 to 8 teachers per subject per grade level in both language arts and math. And those groups of teachers meet with Lorraine Mooney and Anne-Marie Farias from the Assessment and Accountability Department, and they actually first created the assessments that we have been using over the last couple of years and modify them based on teacher input at least once a year. And then now, as our assessments are changing and becoming more aligned to Common Core and you know, moving forward, teachers are the ones that are doing that in that committee. And then as that committee meets and they make recommendations, they're choosing items, replacing items, then a communique goes out from her office to all teachers at that particular grade level or subject, the results of what the committee decided and those teachers came up with, and where we're headed in that direction. So that's been a very important group, and as you can see, it's 6 to 10 per grade level, but it's at all the grade levels, and secondary, both in language arts and math. So it's quite a few teachers that are a part of that process, and they'll be meeting next month as sort of an end of the year review of the assessments that we've given and some modifications to make them more compatible with Common Core next year. Next, we have the Common Core Steering Committee. We really felt like this was going to be an important committee. We knew that there were so many steps that needed to be taken along the way in our transition to Common Core, and we wanted teachers to be a big part of that. So we created a group with 32 teachers, some principals, and Ed Services administrators, and they are sort of a cross-reference of every grade level, of representatives from every grade level in math at the secondary level, in language arts at the secondary level, and then in the other subjects. There are other subject sort of representatives as well. And that group has we met in the spring of last year. We met in the summer of last year as we planned that training that some of you attended in August with all of our teachers. And then we met for 2 full work days with some County Office of Ed staff, where we learned about the Common Core and spent time looking at the assessment examples that we had been given and the shifts that would need to happen in the classroom for the Common Core and the standards themselves. And then in work groups, they created propositions for the different things that we needed to do over the next 3 years to be ready for the Common Core. So once we took those propositions and then we brought them to principals and then we brought them to Ed Services, and that's sort of been the nexus for building our plan of the actions that we're taking over the next few years. A committee that I'm going to insert here that I somehow forgot about because I think I talked about it at the last meeting is the Secondary Math Program Committee. So that's not on your list, but that is a group that started last year as well. It's made up of secondary math teachers at the middle and high school level, as well as some secondary principals, and Jay Trujillo, Director of Secondary Ed. And they have been looking at our math pathways and offerings, looking at our the offerings that we have for our most struggling students. They've developed and piloted our foundations classes, and we talked about these a few weeks ago, but they've been very involved in that process and also in learning about the Common Core and its implications for math. So that's been another group that's worked with us. In addition to that, we have our prioritization committees. Over the last month or so, we have taken a group of teachers in both language arts and math, and in a room with, as you can see, 4 teachers per grade level at the elementary level and 3 at the secondary level. We spent 2 days together with language arts and 2 days together with math as a group K-12, and we analyzed the standards themselves, and each grade level came up with their draft priority standards, those standards that are really the most important, can't live without, have to spend the time on to make sure students master standards. And once each grade level had come up with them, we then laid them out K-12, and each group talked about them. So the high school teachers were talking with the kindergarten teachers and so on, until we had a set of draft priority standards, K-12, that flowed together all the way up through the grade levels that could be very effective for us. And the next step in that process is then it's gone out to all the schools. So we created a draft template of these intended standards. We sent them out to all teachers, and all teachers will be reviewing them and providing us feedback. And then in May, a smaller group of the same teachers from the Prioritization Committee will meet and look at that feedback, and we'll finalize those priority standards and then provide them to teachers before they leave for the summer. So that's another process that we've been using. After that, the Standards Map Committee, what we'll be doing for elementary, once we have this list of the priority standards, then we'll group together the supporting standards that lead to that priority standard. And a group of teachers over the summer will provide some guidance as to where in our texts or in our normal teaching process these standards fall, so that when the teachers come back they have some idea, not a day-to-day pacing guide as we may have had in past years, but more like in this quarter, these are the priority standards and these sort of fall in this area in your book. And so kind of a guideline for teachers to assist them in this difficult process of changing standards. Next, we have our balanced math program, and I'm going to, actually that'll be our next topic at the next board meeting, so I'll talk more about that itself. But I wanted to talk about the way in which we work with teachers to make that happen. Once we had researched a possible program that we felt went well with the transition to Common Core and would involve good staff development for our secondary math teachers, we got a group of math teacher leaders together and actually placed them in a phone conference with the presenter of that program and had them listen to her discussion about what there was there, and then asked them to really vote and say, is this something we really believe in or don't? And so we didn't bring it until we had some teacher participation. And so then we had a couple of training days with 7th through 12th grade math teachers, and those of us from Ed Services who were there really felt like, oh my gosh, we need 6th grade to be a part of this too, because when we look at the Common Core math standards, 6th grade, they really lump them together with 6, 7, and 8, not so much with K5. So we then held an informational meeting where I invited teachers, and we had a 6th grade teacher from every elementary school came. I outlined the program and explained it to them exactly what we were proposing to do. We didn't at that point ask if they wanted that particular program or not, because we had already started it with the secondary schools, but we provided them with some information that they could take back to their staff, their grade level team, and we got some really positive feedback from that process, that they felt like they sort of knew and were a part of what was going on before they walked in the door. Next, there's our units of study. One of the parts of the process of changing over to the Common Core standards will be developing units at each grade level that are set around these priority standards. So you have some very important priority standards, and you're going to develop a unit and say, this is the overall big picture here. Maybe we're talking about multiplication in 3rd grade, just to give a top-of-the-head example. And so we give a sort of a proposed timeline for how long that might take, and here are some proposed materials, and here are some other things. And so we're going to have groups of teachers next year meeting monthly, developing those units of studies that will then be provided with teachers after that. And that'll be 4 teachers per grade level. In elementary, there'll be 4 teachers doing the math ones, 4 teachers per grade level doing the language arts ones, and then at the secondary, it'll be 4 math teachers and 4 language arts teachers. So that'll be, that hasn't started happening yet. We'll begin to meet with those teachers in the end of spring, early summer, but the bulk of that work will take place next year. In addition to that, we are increasing our implementation of our Zangle gradebook program. That is it's part of our attendance and student database system, and it has a wonderful component called Parent Connect, where parents are able to log on and get up-to-date information on students' progress. And we're going to require that teachers use that process, but we're going to get a group of teachers together with representatives from all 13 grade levels so that they can maybe make a determination for us of what's an appropriate level of usage. Because what type of information a kindergarten teacher might need to enter into that versus an 11th grade English language arts teacher may need to enter could be very different. So we're going to get teachers together and take their guidance on what's appropriate to require of teachers in that process. So those are the sort of the committees and groups of teachers that we're working with and how we're working with them to assist us in the transition. In addition, I just wanted to list a couple of things we're doing to try and increase our communication specifically to teachers about what we're doing. As you know, in August, at the beginning of this school year, we had an orientation training for all of our teachers to give them information about the Common Core. When each of these groups meet, whether it's the steering committee, whether it's the secondary math program committee, whether it's the art committee, a direct email goes out to all teachers involved. So if it's an ARC, it may be just 3rd grade. So we just email 3rd grade. But we make some direct communications from us to those teachers that are affected so they hear the right information that the group has agreed upon is the appropriate information to provide, and they know what's going on, and they don't feel like they're not informed. Additionally, like when I talked about the prioritization process, we're starting it with groups of teachers, and we're asking them to come up with the draft template that tells us what they suggest those priority standards will be. But then all teachers will be involved in reviewing those things and providing us feedback before we actually finalize the decision. So everybody, well, I say everybody K-6, and everybody who is language arts or math in secondary school, because they're actually language arts and math standards. So there are departments who are not, that may not be involved in that process, but it's designed to be inclusive and get everybody's voice and have everybody be heard. Additionally, once a month or so, I send out directly to teachers just a short 3 to 4 minute video. There's a group called the Hunt Institute they have a YouTube channel that provides some really good information about particular aspects of the Common Core. It's made by the developers or the writers of the Common Core, and it provides some good information. I try to do that, for example, when we were doing the prioritization process, I sent something that talked about focus in mathematics and how you really need to have some real distinct priorities and be able to focus on important concepts. So we try to keep them in the loop with some short informational things and some direct communication from me to all the teachers. And as well, we're in the process of setting up a website that will be dedicated to the Common Core transition and have information for teachers. So that's sort of in a nutshell all the things we're doing or trying to do to collaborate with our faculty and have them be strongly involved in the process and have a voice. So with that, any questions?
Mr. Schaefer?
It's gratifying to see the inclusion of teachers in the prioritization process and giving all teachers input. These workshops, are they recommended by, is there a national committee on Common Core standards, or is this Jurupa Unified?
It is Jurupa Unified. The great thing about the Common Core standards is there's so many groups out there. I mean, 47 states are going through this with us. So we are able to draw from the work of a lot of different areas. For example, and like to talk about the prioritization, we could have, with a 5-minute internet search, pulled up probably 12 states' version of what the priority standards ought to be. We felt that for us, it needed to be standards that our teachers chose and identified and looked at and revised, and so it'd be a working document that our teachers who know our kids the best could utilize more effectively. But that being said, we're looking, there's a lot of information about there about best transition, the best things that you can do, the shifts that need to happen to prepare for Common Core. And so while we're making Jurupa choices for how we go about the process, we're being mindful of what's out there in terms of what are best practices and what are for example, the states like New York, where they have been sort of an early adopter, we're looking at those things and seeing what's gone well for other places.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, the timeline that they implement Common Core is what again?
That's a long answer.
It's supposed to be very short. So.
We are implementing it next year. But it's one thing to say we're implementing it. It's going to be a several-year process before we're really there. It doesn't happen when we just say, okay, we're implementing. At the elementary level, we're providing some training in July and August, 2 days before teachers come back, and it's going to be focused around math. And so our message to them is that math implementation is our first priority for next year. Language arts is a secondary priority because the changes are so much more grandiose in math. At the secondary level, where you have separate teachers one teacher's doing language arts and one teacher's doing math, they're going to be implementing those standards next year. But we felt that it would be too much to ask an elementary teacher who's doing both language arts and math to really focus on both. So I would say we're implementing next year, but that implementation is going to take a few years.
And then also the tools to implement Common Core, computers, textbooks, like that. Have those standards already been set?
There have been, the assessment system, the Smarter Balance assessment that we'll take in the spring of 2015, they have provided information about what types of platforms we'll need to take their tests for Common Core. So we do have some idea of what we'll need in terms of the machines that need to be in classrooms for that. The textbooks, we're waiting because the process in our state is that they develop a framework for a subject, then they send that framework to the publishers, they develop their textbooks, and then we adopt them. We're supposed to see a math framework in the fall of this year. So there are some materials out there now that say that they are Common Core materials, but what we've found and what we've read and what we've learned is that they're not really what we need them to be. So we're kind of holding off until we have good materials and an effective framework to adopt good materials and do it in the best way.
What if their timeline isn't set to our timeline?
We're going to do the best we can. To give you an example, we have the Houghton Mifflin Medallions Language Arts textbook in our K-6 classrooms. There's a group called the Basel Alignment Project that has done a national work around the questions that are found in textbooks, and our textbook is included in that group. And they've reworked the questions for each story in those textbooks at the grade levels, like in 2 through 6, I believe. And so we're providing that information to our teachers so that one thing that they can do to continue with the materials that they have and yet move towards the Common Core is ask the questions that are aligned to the level of difficulty or rigor that the Common Core demands. So there are things like that, or in the Common Core it requires that elementary teachers provide more nonfiction informational text access. And so we have made it very clear that with teachers that you have some sources of nonfiction materials, your social studies text, your science texts, and that we've given them permission and suggested that they use those when appropriate to even whether it's in their language arts time to allow kids access to those types of materials and move towards Common Core in that way. So it's just about doing the best you can with the materials you have until really good materials are available and we have the funds to purchase them, which is a whole other issue.
And then also, what kind of impact then would it be on our budget to purchase all these textbooks and stuff like that? Has that been figured out already?
That might be a question for my funding person next to me.
We are working that, and one of the big expenses that is taking place is the updating the computer system we have and growing the number of computers that we need in the classroom. And Paula Ford's put together a great program for that that uses some redevelopment money and other monies that we have. And we should be able, when we finish this process of buying and adding to our computer system, we're going to be trying refreshing our computers, in other words, replacing them basically every 5 years. Right now, as you probably recollect from a lot of our buys, we have computers in our schools that are 9 and 10 years old. So that's a big segment of it, Mr. Hernandez.
Okay, let me chime in one other thing real quickly. In the past, under categorical funding, there was funding for instructional materials. Those programs are flexed till 2014-15, I think, for instructional materials. The governor's proposal is for the local control funding formula that flows those into more general funding. So one way or another, there should be additional funding. And I think, as Mr. Dabrowski pointed out, there are no state-approved materials yet. So there's two aspects. One is getting ready for the infrastructure and the testing that's part of it. The other is kind of bridging the gap until those materials come out.
Staying with the funding question, the other thought that came to me in terms of funding was what's already in process, meaning having the significant number of teachers involved in the process calls for release time for hourly and other support services for them to, to be provided, with the opportunities to be a part of all this. How is that currently being funded, and what process or sources will be used to continue this into the future?
Well, the bulk of that work has been under the staff development arena. So we've been using categorical funding, Title II, Title I, things like that. We've always had mandates to put money in towards staff development, and this has been the main thrust of our staff development now, is the transition to Common Core and its impact on instruction. So that's where we've been with that.
Okay, and looking at the heavy emphasis in the areas of language arts and mathematics again, although we do have teachers involved at secondary level in single subject areas in one of the committees here. Are we looking at the state only assessing students in those two content areas and not any of the others? Is that the way it's unfolding?
Well, the Smarter Balance assessment itself appears to be focused on those two areas, and I've not heard anything from the Smarter Balance or the more Common Core-based assessment. What the state might do in terms of filling in things like they have the 7th grade, the social studies, things like that. It hasn't been, we haven't heard yet, and they haven't made their decisions yet. So some of that remains to be seen. But at the same time, the idea of, our language arts standards also contain literacy standards for the content areas. Mm-hmm. And that will be a big implication. We have not, we focused first on language arts and math, but that's another area that we're headed towards and just haven't been there yet.
And what about in relation to English learners? How is all this going to look for them? Are they still going to be assessed in English only testing instruments, as they have in the past?
That would be my best guess. And as you probably know, California has developed a new set of English language development standards that are aligned to the Common Core. And so as our groups of teachers work, and as we talked about that units of study creation for language arts, we will, and most likely through the leadership of Martha Gomez and her department, look at how ELD can complement and support that as well at the same time, because we want to make sure that our English learners are continuing to close that gap.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Schaefer.
Just, as far as the testing, if I'm not mistaken, the state will give school districts 3 years before it all has to be done online. Is that, can you find out for us?
I believe that is the case. That's what I've heard.
Can we get... All testing will be done, but we have 3 years, right, online. Can we, can business services start getting together some sort of an assessment as to how many computers we'll need, the cost, and that? I know we've got 3 years, but...
Yes, sir, we have that. Okay. We have that, and we're doing that, and we can put that data in a Friday letter to show you if you like.
And I believe, although every student is supposed to be tested on the computer online, they don't, it's not like today's test where everyone's sitting there with the pencil bubbling in at the same time. There'll be a rollover of students, so you'll have blocks of students because there aren't enough computers to go around.
Right, and we are piloting the Smarter Balance assessment at a couple of our elementary schools over the next month or so, and so we're excited about that because we're going to get some really good information about what is it going to take, how many computers, what's the timeline, and what does the test look like itself too.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Next, we have review of the 2013 graduation ceremonies. Mr. Dabrowski again.
Thank you. There's the graduation dates, and the board members who will be attending those graduations are in your supporting documents, and that's information only.
Thank you. And next we move to Mission Middle School, the trip to South Korea. Mr. Dushan.
I think as the board is aware, we have, I think this is going on 3 years now, had an exchange program with Cheongnam Province in South Korea. And this year, for the second time, we will be sending a group of students to Korea. That will be done through a combination of their own fundraising and a very generous donation from Hyundai Corporation. In addition, we had a donation from Mr. Harold Reese specifically for either board members or district administrators to travel with the Mission Middle School group. So this is essentially information and a question and an invitation. If any board members are interested in attending, tickets should be bought soon. The dates are roughly June 6th through the 17th, I believe. 19th. I stand corrected. So if you are interested in going, please let me know. Between the two donations, it's certainly appropriate for any board members to go. And so far, there are no foreign travel advisories in South Korea. I've been checking daily.
I volunteer.
Thank you. And are there any other written communications or reports?
Better take my place. Oh, yeah, there is. I'm sorry. We're just working on Shaylee's request. Taking it seriously. Congratulations to Mr. Memo Mendez, who's been re-elected to the Delegate Assembly for 2013 for CSBA. Congratulations. Yeah.
Congratulations, Mr. Mendez. And next, Ms. Elzig, I believe we have some reporting out from closed session.
The board voted in closed session to revise the termination date of classified employee number 131498. Classified employee number 131498 is terminated effective April 2nd, 2013.
No, that was closed session, yes. All right, next we will move on to a public hearing session to hold the public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal for CSEA 392. Mrs. Elzig.
Yes, the last board meeting we made public the proposal from CSEA, and tonight we're holding the public hearing, and later the board would be asked to approve it.
Thank you. We're going to jump back a minute.
I forgot to mention that I do plan to attend and would probably be using some of the donation from Mr. Ree, and you'll get a travel request approval probably on the next agenda.
All right, at this time, I will formally open the public hearing on the initial bargaining proposal for CSEA 392. If anyone would like to speak, they may come forward. Seeing no one that wants to make comments, we will close the public hearing at this time and move on to the action session to approve routine action items by consent, items A1 through 8 as printed.
I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Mendez and a second from Mr. Schaefer. Student board members, if you're in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, we have a 2-0 vote on student board members. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item B is to approve the proposed elementary school site boundaries. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am. I do have just 2 slides to show you, but I don't know, since most of you attended, you've seen those slides already. And what it simply shows on the first two slides is how our district looks today with elementary school boundaries and how it would look if you approve this approach that we've taken. As you all know, we had 2 community meetings. They were not very well attended, but the people who did attend appreciated what we had to say. Most people who did not attend or we had calls from were asking the questions if their middle school boundaries were changing and high school boundaries are changing, and we are not going to do that. So we really received very little input, a lot of, I think, appreciation, the fact that we were rolling this out slowly, that it wasn't going to be next year, it was going to be the following year. We would be liberal in our transportation support as much as money would allow us, and we would roll it out over a period of about 5 years. We do have Tony from Decision Insight here. If there's any special question on any particular school, but with that, we would recommend that the board would approve the proposed elementary school site boundaries with the caveat that we would recommend that the staff would have some implementation meetings as well with the community several months before this would take place. So we would plan on doing that 6 months and 3 months out before this is implemented.
Mr. Mendez.
I was just going to comment that even though, again, the meetings that were established were not well attended, plenty of information was provided on the website, and in addition to that, the presentation that was made for the DLAC group, at which there were, I would say, 40 parents, 50 maybe there. They all received it very well and had some very good questions to ask, and I think the staff has done a good job with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Mrs. Burns?
The community that I happen to live into has been moved over to Granite Hills eventually. Is that because of the contiguous line or something?
Yes, ma'am. And when we looked at it, the suggestion was made to keep all of the students who lived in your area north of the 60 freeway at Granite Hill, and as many as we could, and as many of the students who live south of the freeway, to put them in the Mission Bell area. And with a very small area over by Piddly Road, we were able to do that with those 2 schools.
With the ones that are in my neighborhood, it's actually going to be a little bit more difficult for transportation. No, they'll just take the freeway, huh? They'd have to take the freeway to Granite Hill. Because as is, yeah, the elementary bus goes to San Savine and comes back up under. Okay, I'm sure you've looked at it. It's just, I guess, those sentimental things that occur. It's like my 45-year-old son went to Mission Bell.
And one of the things, Mrs. Burns, I could say that Mr. Mendez has alluded to, at the DLAC committee, we did have representatives from all schools there, and they seemed pleased with the way things lined up, and including the Granite Hill Mission Bell.
Well, it wouldn't matter anyway, because the quality of all of our schools is par excellence, and every child in my neighborhood is bused because of safety exceptions. So Granite Hill is a wonderful elementary.
Mr. Schaefer?
Even though the public was given ample opportunity to participate, very few showed up. I commend the district for the opportunities that we gave the public. I really appreciate, I think, Mr. Gill, the map, I don't know, these are not numbered, but I think it's page 3, showing the entire district. Will this be sent out to parents at the beginning of each year? So just in case they have questions, or are we going to put up a nice big one?
We could look at that. Your suggestion, we listened to your suggestion, Mr. Schaefer, about having, what Mr. Schaefer suggested was to have a very large map that would be on display in the boardroom. And people, when they came in to talk, they wouldn't be shocked, and we'd let them know that we've had the public hearings or the public meetings and the community outreach programs, and we would do that. I think we'll do everything we can on the website. We'll probably, we use a lot of teleparent and send things home with the children, and we'll probably do that again as part of the implementation package, so that's what we recommend. But we're going to look at creating a great big map and having it up here too, so thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so administration recommends the board approve the proposed elementary school site boundaries. Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Student board members, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Board, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item C, approve the lease purchase of 3 district vehicles. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am. We have a number.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. We have a motion by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mrs. Burns. Any comments or questions? Students, all those in favor say aye. Board, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And I'm sure all 3 of those receiving are very grateful.
It wasn't a stage incident. I just have to tell you, because it is kind of a funny story. The transportation vehicle that we try to get around to pick up our broken buses and things, the superintendent remarked today it looked like things were backwards, and they were. We had a bus out towing this vehicle, the tow truck, that's supposed to... So these are sorely needed.
That would have been a photo op.
All right. Item D, approve eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, attendance, ERSEA plan, and eligibility criteria for the 2013-2014 school year for Head Start. Mr. Dabrowski.
For approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Although, any questions or comments? Student board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item E, approve Head Start budget and grant application for the school year 2013-14.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and, okay, Mr. Schaefer is the second. One of the 2 of you, so you guys are fine. All right, all student board members, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Board, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item F, approve Head Start goals and objectives for the 2013-2014 school year. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. These are just the goals and objectives for the 2013-14 school year. It's part of the standard renewal process of the grant application for Head Start.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Student board members, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Board, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item G, adopt resolution number 2013-30, the authorization to encumber funds for the following fiscal year. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am. This is something we do each year because we do have to buy certain items to have materials on hand when the teachers and students come back to school. So we recommend that the board adopt resolution number 2013/30, authorization to encumber funds for the 13-14 fiscal year.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Mendez. Student board members, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Board, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item H, adopt resolution number 2013-31, the authorizing the issuance of 2013-2014 tax revenue anticipation notes, or TRANS. Mr. Gill.
Yes, ma'am. This is something we've had to do for a number of years because of all the deferrals that take place, not just within the school year, but outside the school year. Now, the governor's proposal will start to eat away at what he calls this wall of debt, where we'll take down approximately a quarter of it. We're asking for authorization the same as last year, $38 million. That does not mean we would need that amount. If for some reason the governor's proposal failed, then we would require that. But we only get charged for the amount of cash we actually use in the trans. So having something that you'd authorize as for $28 million or $38 million makes no difference. It's just the cost of usage of the money. So with that, we recommend the board adopt resolution number 213-31, authorizing issuance of 2013-2014 tax revenue anticipation notes in an amount not to exceed $38 million.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second by Mrs. Burns. Student board members, all those in favor say aye. Board, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item I, adopt resolution number 2013-32, authorize the temporary transfer of funds from the general fund to the adult education fund. Mr. Gill.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. Student board members, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Board, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item J, adopt resolution number 2013-33, authorize the temporary transfer of funds from the general fund to the child development fund.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second by Mr. Mendez. Student board, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Board, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item K, act on student discipline cases. We have one revoke expulsion case, item 13-017. Have a motion and a second by Mr. Mendez. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We have two expulsion cases with agreement and stipulation, 13-054 and 13-060. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Expulsion, suspended expulsion cases, agreement and stipulation. We have two. Case 13-059 and 13-062. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Suspended expulsion case, agreement and stipulation. We have one. Case 13-061. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And approved reinstatement cases, we have two. 09-056 and 11-201. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item L, approve personnel matters. Approve personnel report number 15. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. Administration recommends the approval of personnel report number 15 as printed.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez and a second by Mr. Schaefer. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 2, approved initial bargaining proposal from CSEA 392. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 3, ratify contract for Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item M, board member comments and committee reports. Mr. Mendez, we'll go ahead and start with you tonight.
Thank you. I just wish to congratulate again all the honorees of the best. It's a great program that we've had in the district for so many years, and it's a great way to recognize our people in the district and the wonderful job that each and every person in the district does every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer?
I'd like to congratulate all the best of the best. I'd like to comment again that I find it very gratifying that in the spirit of improving student education, that teacher collaboration with the administration will really help our kids really improve their education and their future. That's what we're all here for, and I'm glad to see that. In that spirit, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mrs. Burns?
I have no report this evening.
Mr. Hernandez?
Gotta learn how to turn that on. Well, congratulations to all those best of the best. You are truly the best of the best. Appreciate you. Again, I want to thank staff for all the information they've given them, me especially. I appreciate the transition plan for the AAA. I congratulated Mr. Duchamp, but that was Mr. Dubrowski. I appreciate that. I appreciate Mr. Duchamp for getting SB 56 information to me, and then also talking about ERAF and how our city is going to be funded, and looking into that. One of the things I'd like to ask the president is to consider, many years back we had what was called a interagency basic council, where all agencies met together and discussed the things that were happening in our community. And it wasn't so much a meeting, but it was a way to communicate and develop networking with other organizations. I do believe that the city and the parks are planning on doing something like that, and I would ask that you consider at least assigning either staff or a board member to be part of that. But other than that, I think meeting went well. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to all the best of the best. And Mr. Hernandez, you stole my line. They are the best of the best, but I'll let you get away with it tonight. I would like, Mr. Duchamp, could you please talk to Governor Brown and let him know that we're tired of the trans and spending money to get money that, you know, it's like, we could do so much more with that interest that we have to do. Would he please let us just have the money up front and forget about all the extra money for all those? Mr. Hernandez, I will look into the interagency item. And with that, I hope everyone had a great spring break that got to take a break. And we will see you in May. Meeting is April 15th.
Trying to skip tax day, aren't you?
Yes. Okay, we'll see you on April 15th. The month is flying by. With that, we are adjourned.